Hello and welcome to the Playbook XI podcast ahead of the Australia v Pakistan third T20 international from Bellerive Oval in Tasmania. I'm your host, Tim Williams, my guest today and member of the Playbook XI team, 32 Test, 42 ODI veteran for the Black Caps, former New Zealand international turned superstar commentator, Simon Doull. Dooley, how are you, mate?
I'm good, thank you, Tim. Just sitting in Dubai at the moment, matey. Getting ready for the golf today, but keeping an eye on the cricket as well. Watched last night's proceedings and looking forward to going to watch Rory McIlroy this afternoon. So should be good.
Tough life over there for you, Dooley. And, mate, look, between covering IPLs, World Cup, being based out of London and Dubai and all over the place, pretty hectic life for an international commentator.
Yeah, it has been. This year's been really busy. Obviously, we had the World Cup down in the Caribbean through straight after the IPL, back to the UK for the summer, which was great, back down for the CPL. A little bit of T10 action. Not sure how much of that you'll be tuning into, which kicks off in Abu Dhabi in about 5 days' time. So I'll head down there for that and then take December off. And then it kind of starts all again in January, buddy. We've got the ILT20 straight into the Champions Trophy. IPL back in India, then back to the UK for the summer, and then back down to the CPL. So she's fully booked from Jan right through to the next to September, which is a nice place to sit when you're a freelancer.
Yeah, busy man, Dooley. And most importantly, on top of the pile on the priority list for you, I'm sure, is the Playbook XI podcast. So, look, mate,
100%.
your resume, it speaks for itself. As for me, an Australian fantasy sport, self-proclaimed expert, I suppose you'd call it. I've been playing fantasy sport for over 15 years. I've been working professionally in fantasy sport and fantasy cricket for the best part of a decade now. So, Playbook XI, we released a couple of podcasts last year, but how we're going to do this, we've got a great team of contributors for the podcast going ahead of the Australian Summer of Cricket. We're framing ourselves as the Australian experts on Aussie soil down here. We know the decks, we know the venues, the conditions, we know what the weather does, all these great things. And the idea, of course, is to aid you in your fantasy teams, your Dream 11 teams, to go forward and hopefully win you a bit of money throughout what will be, of course, the Australian summer. So, look, before we get stuck into it, mate, of course, we'll be moving forward with the Australia v India Test Series down here as well, covering all 5 of those Test series. You can listen to our podcast on Spotify, on Apple and iTunes. And, of course, watch us on YouTube, which hopefully you're doing right now. And as I said, steer you into a few winners in your Dream 11 contest. Just quickly, Dooley, before we do get into picking our team for that third T20 international between Australia and Pakistan, a few key notes from the second game. And as we know, Dream 11, it's all about role and the importance of role, who has the best ones. Out of that second T20, a man that I know you're a very big fan of, Abbas, and of course Haris Rauf, who's been unplayable from the Australian team. They bowled the death overs for the Pakistanis in that second T20. They did just opt for the 5 bowlers as well, not opting to go for 6 to chime in as well. After the Australians, Marcus Stoinis was the one who joined Nathan Ellis at the death for the Australians in that really tight fought game. Look, plenty to take out of that and to take into our Dream 11 teams for the third T20 international. Last one to touch on, Glenn Maxwell. He got 1 over for Australia as well. No overs for Matty Short or Aaron Hardy in that one. We had 1 entry into the Dream 11 contest last night, 67,000 people in it, finished about 2,900 overall. The picture will be up on screen here somewhere, and you can check that one out as well. But, Dooley, let's get stuck into the third T20 international. Let's pick a team. The way we're going to do this, you and I, we're both going to debate each position, wicket keepers, batters, all-rounders, bowlers, to nail a team and hopefully find a winner. And look, mate, I'm the real fantasy sport expert, I should say here. But, mate, you have a hell of a lot of runs on the board. You know every venue in the world, every player, every little nook and cranny of every cricketer on the planet. So, mate, you're going to get the final say. If we're debating between 2, we're going to run with you for the time being. And, of course, mate, it is being played down in Hobart at Ninja, the recently renamed Ninja Stadium, more commonly known as Bellerive Oval in Hobart. I suppose the first thing, Dooley, 160 is the average score in the first innings over the last 2 seasons. So a bit in it for both based on that. What do you make of the venue, and is there any sort of preference to pay it for bowlers or batters, or what sort of styles going into this contest?
Yeah, I think it's generally medium pace. It's not a quick bouncy surface, but it's certainly not a slow surface by nature. That sort of gives you that mid 160s range. I think you bat really well. You can post those 180s, 190s. Short, very short square of the
Mm.
wicket. So the into the surface pace off deliveries towards the back end don't always work well. You get half a bat on it and almost find those leg side boundaries, offside boundaries. So I think the modus operandi for the quick bowlers will generally be nice and full, looking more for the Yorkers. If you're going to go off pace, you've got to really get it absolutely spot on. Down at Ninja, it'll be cooking, will it? Down at Ninja Oval, is that where the sponsors come from? I don't even know. But
It's going to be cooking,
why
mate.
the new name?
I
Why
don't
the
know,
new
but
name?
I'm all for it.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Why not? Look, get it full, I think, towards the back end because it's quite long,
Mm.
straight. So expect the spinners to err maybe on the spinners to err maybe on the full side as well. But as soon as you drag it down, it's not a big hit square. So
Mm.
those are the things. If you've got some really good square of the wicket players, Rizwan likes to whip it off his leg short. You think about Matt Short as well, hits the ball really well, leg side, offside. So those sorts of players are the ones you probably want to be looking forward to.
Mm. Mate, these, as you said, the short square boundaries down there at Bellerive or at Ninja, Matty Short is the man that comes to mind. He's finding a bit of form without really going on with any scores of late. 30 odd in that second T20. He looked really good at times, but short square, one of the best players in world cricket of those short square boundaries. So
Mm.
shame he didn't, for Dream 11 purposes, roll the arm over yet in that, or in the second game, I should say. But if he could squeeze an over or two in as well, again, a different deck,
Mm.
things change. You never sort of know what will happen there if he could get a go. And, mate, what about team predictions? It is a dead rubber. The Australians are up 2-0 after that first very much shortened game to start the series. The Australian team, realistically, there could be a number of changes, and we're not going to know until 40 minutes until the contest starts, but we're hoping that it'll be pretty similar to what we saw in game two. What about at Pakistan, mate? Do you see them rolling out the same 11 for the contest, or do you think there'll be changes?
Yeah, just looking through this side, I mean, Sabzada Fahan, he had a pretty lean time of it in the early part of his career, played 7 matches, hasn't had a lot of success. So I'm just wondering whether they make a change at the top of the order or towards the top of the order, maybe give Arafat Minhas an opportunity, something like that. But I'd expect maybe one change towards the top of the order if they look to leave Sabzada out. Being, as you said, a dead rubber. They might give him one more opportunity, but if there was a change at that batting order, I'd expect him to maybe miss out for one of the other two batters to come in, Omar Yusuf or Arafat Minhas.
Yeah. So, of course, we don't really need to preface it and say it, but keep an eye on those final teams for any sort of major
Mm.
changes. But we do expect them, certainly Pakistan, to be near enough 1 to 11, and the Australians hopefully going to be similar, but a lot harder to predict off the back of the fact that they are up 2-0 in this series. Mate, let's get stuck in. Let's pick a team for the punters out there and try and find some winners for the Dream 11 contest. And we will start at the wicket keeper position. And at the time of recording, Rizwan is the most selected player at 9 crore at 59.75% ownership. Josh Inglis at 33%. Khan is actually the second most owned at 48.33. He's at 7 crore. Inglis is at 8.5 crore. Mate, who stands out for you here?
I mean, I like both Inglis and Rizwan, to be honest. I
Mm,
mean, they both offer you what you want as far as batting position. Rizwan right at the top of the order. You've got options, with that keeping side of things as well. So I don't mind both of them if you can afford them both
mm.
towards the top of the order. It's what Rizwan does with opening the batting. Again, he's another one that does hit well square of the wicket. So I mean, if you're looking out and out keeper, do you go with Rizwan because he gives you that top of the order option? How are you feeling on that one?
I like Rizwan, and the reason being is that aside from probably Matty Short, certainly due to those, as mentioned, the short square boundaries, I don't love the
Mm,
Australian top order. They don't instill me with a lot of
yeah.
confidence, and that includes Jake Fraser McGurk. He went off for a little bit in that last fixture, but he's very much, honestly, it almost looks like hit and hope at the moment. He's a future superstar of our game, Dooley, but there are a lot of technical flaws. And after bursting onto the scene in the Big Bash last season, good coaches and world class bowlers out there, they're finding him out and they're finding his technical flaws and he's struggling. So we know that at any time he could come out and he could hit 70 off 20, but his temperament's not quite there. He doesn't really know when to leave a ball alone. So, look, I'm happy to bypass him. I'm relatively happy to bypass Inglis as well. So, as the class of the wicket keepers, I think I'm happy with Rizwan in this one.
Yeah, I'm with you. Let's stick with
Mm.
Rizwan at the top, and I think we probably just decided on our other opener as well, did we?
Yeah, well, and that's the other thing. Like, he's at 59.75% ownership. So, probably not as
Mm,
high as I anticipated it would have been. So to lock in a world-class batsman like a wicket-keeper bat like Rizwan, I'm more than happy to go with him. So let's
yeah.
lock in Rizwan as our only wicket-keeper slot for the time being. And at the batting slot, mate, Matty Short, you mentioned
Mm,
82.31% ownership. I would like him to have been a little bit lower, and as we all know, with these Dream 11 contests, there might be a player who's highly owned, and it's going to be for good reason. They might have a great role or
mm,
be in terrific form. You do have to go against the crowd a little bit, and sort of, if there's a lower ownership player, that's how you're going to win these contests and get in the money.
mm.
At 82.31% ownership, I don't love that ownership, but Matty Short, I do feel like Bellerive Oval, he's had a fair bit of experience in there, particularly across the Big Bash in recent years. I think I want to throw him in. How do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, how often do you find that needle in the haystack, mate? That's
Mm,
the thing, isn't it? You are searching. Anytime you play the Dream 11, you're searching for that player that nobody else is picking, and I get that. But how do you find them, and how often do you find them? So are you better to stick with the tried and true? I'm a big fan of Matt Short. As you say, the only issue with the Australian side is they've got so many bowling options that he often doesn't get a
mm.
chance at the bowling crease. But if he does, he'll give you something. So more than happy to have Matt Short in any team I've got.
Do you feel, Dooley, is there a chance that Matty Short, could be that second spin option to partner Adam Zampa? Or do you think that they'll stick with Glenn Maxwell? Of course, it'll be the change of venue that may favour. Do you think Maxwell has that extra over or two as the six sort of bowler locked in or not?
Oh, I think he probably does. He's probably the first guy they go to.
Yeah.
And the other thing with Short is a little bit taller than Maxwell, can get a
Mm,
little bit more bounce as well. I don't think he's any less of a bowler by any stretch, but I just
mm.
think the tried and true nature of Aussie going to Maxwell has been that way. So I'd like to see Short. We've seen him open the bowling on the odd occasion as well in domestic T20 cricket. So he can offer you that if they were looking for someone with the brand new ball. But Maxwell kind of has done the same thing. So I just think that they feel like they're going with Maxwell as their first choice. As
Mm.
their sixth bowler rather than Short, but don't be surprised if things change a little bit with Aussie 2-0 up.
Of course, mate. Bubba Azam, he's one that I left out of my team in the second T20. Just 3 runs in that proved a really good move because he was massive ownership. The Dream 11 players, they have very short memories. They're very happy to leave a bloke out and pot a bloke off one bad performance. Again, every contest is going to be different to ownership, but the one that we're going off at the moment as a guide, Bubba's just at 39% ownership. I think that will
Mm.
rise. I think that will rise closer to the actual first ball bowled in the game. I'd expect that to grow to above 50%. Do you feel a bounce back from Bubba? Do you want to take him on? Do you want to put him in? How are you feeling? He's at 9 crore.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of money for a guy who's sort of not been in great form.
Mm,
Um, and he can be a streaky player. When he's hot, he's hot. And when things just aren't quite going for him, I'd be prepared to risk him, mate, to be
mm.
honest. Where are you at on that? I mean, I think if he gets to that 60, 70, 55, 60%, almost think that's a risk worth taking to leave him out.
Big time, mate. I think, as I said, provided he does grow in ownership with current form, I'm happy to leave him out. And that's the other thing. You're paying
Mm.
9 crore for him, so he's very
Yeah,
expensive.
yeah.
Happy to leave him out. Look, if it gets to, the teams come out 40 minutes before, the teams flow in, if he's still sub sort of 40% ownership, okay, we can have a look at him. But for the
Yeah.
time being, I'm with you. I'm happy to leave him out at that price. We sort of move down the
Mm.
list of the batters, and there's David, there's Yusuf, Fraser McGurk, Farhan Khan. Any of these blokes, who sort of appeals the most from the batting order there? Because I know the way that I play Dream 11 that I go quite heavy not only on all-rounders, but bowlers. I just feel so
Mm.
much more secure with bowlers. So anyone that really stands out there who you'd like to put in the team?
Well, I mean, I think Maxwell's probably. I mean, what you look at Glenn Maxwell, he offers you a bit of everything, with the bat, the ball, in the field. If we're leaving out a player like Babar Azam at 9 crore, you can
Mm.
afford another couple of players at a high price. He does take part in all. He's a three-faceted player, isn't he, Maxi? He'll take a spectacular catch. He could get a great run out. He'll bowl an over for you, probably guaranteed. And he's the sort of player that can turn a game with the bat. So. He's one that I like the look of. Usman Khan off the back of a good dig, a good innings. Another one, if you wanted someone in that middle order, perhaps to throw in there.
Yeah, so what about Farhan? So he's currently at 9% ownership, batted at number 3 for Pakistan last game. And that's where I just see that and go, look, whether the form is there or not, we know he's a quality batsman.
Mm,
That's where I just go, there's an opportunity here because if he can stay at that around 10% ownership, honestly, even if he gets to 20 and he puts a few runs on the board, you're just skyrocketing. So what are your thoughts? Again, price-wise, he's at 6.5. He's cheap.
mm.
Everything about Dream
I
11 and
just,
fantasy appeals.
yeah, I mean, I look at his numbers, and it's very early stages in his career. I know the ability and the talent that they think he's got, but after
Mm,
7 games, he's averaging 10, and he's striking at 96.
yeah,
He just hasn't got going.
yeah.
And how's his confidence levels? I don't know whether he's a throwaway for me or not. It's a tough one on him because I know it's very early days to be looking at an entire career and all those numbers, but they just don't make for great reading at the moment for me.
Yeah, mate.
Um, if
Let's
if you want to take a punt because you know him and you know that you know the talent, yes. I'm just looking at it going, oh, numbers, they don't make for good reading for my liking.
Nah, Dooley. I said I've got the fantasy sport now. So you've got the out and out world class cricketing now. So I'm happy to back you. I'm happy to back you because you do need something on the board, and he's at that ownership for a reason. So let's
Mm,
leave him out for now. If we're looking for a cheapie to put in later on, we can.
yeah.
Are we happy enough to put Glenn Maxwell in? He's at 8.5 crore at 83.71% ownership.
I think so. If you're running with the pack a little bit,
Mm.
have him in there. You know that he's going to do something in the game, and very few games go by where Glenn Maxwell doesn't do something for you.
Mate, running down the rest of the all-rounder list there, Stoinis at 56% ownership, a bloke that, again, form-wise, I'm not convinced by him. However,
Mm,
there's pedigree there, and my word, he's got the role. As I said, it's a pretty fragile Australian top order. There should be chances with the Willow there. And the fact that he bowled at the death, it's just a great role. So he's at 56% ownership. There's him, there's Salmon, there's Hardy who didn't bowl, so I'm willing to risk him at 20% ownership. I think that's ridiculous ownership when he's not bowling as it stands. Khan, Minas,
mm.
sort of who stands out there for you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of Stoinis, and I think you're right with that death bowling. The thing about death bowling in T20 cricket, you can pick up three at the death for not many, or you can go for runs. But you're taking that punt, aren't you? And at
Mm,
50 odd percent ownership, I think you're taking a pretty good punt. He's got decent slower balls, can find that Yorker, hits the bat a little bit harder than you think to Marcus Stoinis at times. So if he's bowling at the back end and are trying to look for boundaries and runs, then he's every chance of picking up wickets for you. Hits the ball again out of the park. And if that top order fails once again, when you look through Fraser, McGurk, Inglis, Maxwell, if there's a couple of failures at the top, then
mm.
he will get a decent opportunity with the bat and more than useful there. So looking at him, definitely. Irfan Khan, another player I don't mind at all. Abbas Afridi, I know you're probably looking at him more from a bowling position, but he's a genuine match winner with the bat as well. I think it was back in the T20, the really shortened one on T20 number one. He got 20 off 10. He's a real powerful player, Abbas Afridi. So he's another one that I think is a real genuine contender.
As you said, mate, and bowling at the death, Abbas Afridi, he's 6 crore. He's so cheap
Mate,
in this.
he's in.
So, yeah.
He's in. He's in. Gift buy him.
Lock and load. And look, mate, he's at 75% ownership. So at that price, when we're trying to fit in numerous guns into our team, these top prize players, happy to get him in. Spencer Johnson was a big reason why my
Oh,
side did well in the last contest. And gee, can be hit or miss, Spencer Johnson, but following particularly closely through his Brisbane Heat campaign last time out, through the regular season, he took something like 8 wickets in 10 games and then just went absolutely ballistic in the finals for the Brisbane Heat in their title-winning BBL 13 campaign. And look, he's carried it on because he's starting to just find a little bit more consistency. He was terribly low ownership after that game last night, so I locked him in there. He's up to 65% ownership now, 6.5 crore. Again, he's very, very cheap. Spencer Johnson, yes or no?
absolutely. Really love the guy. I mean, not only as a cricketer and you look at development and progression of bowlers, he's still learning the trade, mate. He really is, and it's not a. It won't surprise me that he just continues to grow in the next year or two. Big lad, lovely, lovely guy too. Really good man to talk to. I know we're not picking on lovely guys because there'll be a few other blokes that wouldn't be in the team, but but when you think about what he's got, I think that the upside for Spencer Johnson is massive. So he'd be in my team all day, every day.
Yeah, happy to get him in. As I said, just at the price. And look, as a potential future superstar of our game, it's not going to be
Mm.
long, but where he's going to be well and above that 6.5 crore to get him in. Let's go to the top of the bowlers list. And Haris Rauf, he's 93% owned, bowling at the death, of course. Huge ownership. And
Mm.
these are one of the ones at 9 crore as well that you just go, this is where you win Dream 11 contest. And you go, if you leave him out, and I wouldn't be banking on him having an off night. I don't think that's going to happen with the form that he's in and his consistency. But, if the wickets elude him and he does end up with 0 wickets or even 1 wicket, there's opportunity there. But, mate, he's near unplayable at the moment. The Australians across the ODI series, the first 2 T20s, they're not getting near him. So I don't know if I can stomach leaving him out.
I know what you're saying. I look at it and I think at 93% ownership at
Mm,
top dollar, you're playing with the rest of the pack, aren't you?
yeah.
And you're saying, I just think he's worth the risk. I
Yeah.
really do. Oh, mate, I'm looking at it going, do I want to be with and I think that number will probably get to 95.
Yeah.
And so you've got if you're in that 5% and he has a bad night, you are laughing.
Yeah.
And I think that I just look at the money you got to pay, that everyone wants him,
Mm.
and you just think if he has a none or a one, you've had a win. If he has a one
And
wicket night or a no wicket night, you've had a massive win.
Mm. And that's it, mate. Like, we've gone with a few relatively high or very high ownership players as it
Mm.
is. You have to go against the pack somewhere. So I'm terrified, but
Yeah.
as I said, you've got to win it somewhere, mate. You do. And like, if we go Haris Rauf, if we leave him out, your next
Mm.
probably quick that you're looking towards is Shaheen Afridi. He's at 45% ownership, less than half at the moment at 8.5 crore. So just a
Mm.
touch cheaper, but it all helps. You've got Shah at 22% at 8 crore. Across the Australian contingent, Zampa at 83% at 9 crore. There's one that I'm more than happy to risk. He's bowling really well, but even the 2 wickets that he got in that second T20 international, it was Pakistan just throwing the bat in chase of late runs. And he's a terrific bowler, don't get me wrong, but he can also just be a very economical bowler at times. They can see him off and pick him off for sort of 6, 7 runs and over and get through Adam Zampa, pending what the match situation looks like. But at 83% ownership, see, Zampa's one that I go, 9 crore, I'm happy to leave him out.
Yeah, I think if you're looking around that side of things again, if we're leaving Harris Rauf out, leaving Zampa out, you just again you're playing against the pack, and you're saying we're just hoping. I think Zampa's if he's not the best white ball spinner in the world, he's not far from the top of the tree.
Hmm.
It's a tough one. Um, I like him in my side. I just think if we leave Harris Rauf out, can we have Zampa in? Are
Who
we
would
are
you
we
prefer
spending
to
too much
risk?
on that front?
Who would
I'd
you prefer
prefer
to
to risk
risk
Harris
out of
Rauf.
Rauf?
Yeah, I prefer
All
to
right.
risk Haris Rauf than risk Adam Zampa personally. I just think that sort of a Bell Reeve. I just think the options for Zampa are probably slightly better. I'd prefer to risk him.
Okay, Dooley, I'm going to give you this one. Because of your pedigree and your history in the game, which I do not have, I'm going to give you this one, mate. However,
This is
when
going
we
to
get
come
to
back
next
to
week's
haunt me, isn't it?
podcast, it could haunt you. It could haunt you. So if you get this wrong, Haris Rauf comes out and takes 5 wickets. I am going to be elevated up to top decision maker and have the final say next week for Australia, India, and our first test selection squad. Perfect. There. So we'll put Zampa in. We'll leave Rauf out. That leaves us with Shaheen Afridi. We can go, at this stage, probably not expecting Sean Abbott to play, but Afridi's at 45% ownership at 8.5 crore. We've got Shah at 22% at 8. I think Nathan Ellis at 53% ownership. I think that is off the back of going wicketless in the last game. But again, he's been a staple of this Oz T20 international side for a long time. He's absolute class bowling at the death. So Nathan Ellis, if you're going to leave Rauf out and go Zampa, I want Nathan Ellis in my team. What about, there's Xavier Bartlett, there's McQueen. Who do you want to add to that as well?
Well, Ellis, absolutely, totally agree with you there. I think, Xavier Bartlett he's bowled pretty well, hasn't he? And, opening up, he's looked decent. So what's his price at? Where's he at? Because I think, he's another one that they're probably looking at saying, well, we're unsure and, he might not be overly picked.
He's at 7 crore, so he's cheap. McQueen at 38% ownership, he's 6.5 crore. What's your preference there?
I think Bartlett. You happy with Bartlett?
So we're going to have Johnson, Ellis, Bartlett, and Zampa. We have to risk one of them. I don't think we can go in with 4 Aussie bowlers. I think it's too many. We're going to have to drop one of the 4. I'm happy for it to be Bartlett because he's at 80% ownership. So I'm more than happy to risk Bartlett. He's not, as it stands, he's not bowling death. That could change very quickly, but he didn't last game. I think of all of those, I'm happy to risk Bartlett at the ownership.
I'd say leave Bartlett out, and I mean Nasim Shah hasn't been at his best, but he can be streaky. He can get on a roll. If he was what's he at, about 50%?
He's at 22%.
Yeah, see, he could be a good risk. I mean, because he could have a really good night. He's one of those bowlers. If he just gets it right, and there's a little bit more pace and bounce in the surface, he could be very, very dangerous. So he might be worth a risk.
Yeah. All right. So we've got 5 bowlers, 2 all-rounders, a batsman, a wicket keeper. We can potentially get one more bowler in, and then we're definitely going to need one more, probably a batsman in there or a wicket keeper. Let's go back to the batsman for now. Babar Azam, we've got David. We've got Yusuf, obviously didn't play last game. Fraser McGirt, Farhan Khan. In the wicketkeeper ranks, we're circling back to Inglis. Khan is at 48% ownership. Is there anyone that stands there that you go, I want them in my team, or are we just going to be filling slots for the moment, Dooley?
I almost feel like we're filling slots, and we're looking now at numbers. We're looking at kind of who can we pay a reasonable amount for and get the most out of. And I'll go back to Josh Inglis and just say,
plenty of cash in bank.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to go back to Josh Inglis and say, look, again, he does the keeping job. Obviously, bats at the top of the order. Form, okay, not great. Where's he sitting from a selection point of view? I mean, a lot of people looking at Josh Inglis. How's he looking?
Mate, he's 33% ownership, which does blow my mind. I'm sure he was much, much higher for the fixture last night. So another one who I think is going to probably benefit from the short boundaries, a lot of local experience. Obviously not playing for the Hobart Hurricanes, but played there plenty of occasions. So look, do we slot Inglis in at 33% ownership?
I think so. Yeah, I'm happy to run with that. I think with what he offers, both bat and behind the stumps,